If you are a man that does not have some kind of form of gravitas or power in today's day and age, you are likely going to be disregarded by a whole sum of women out there. And the reason being is because you haven't developed yourself to the point in which you have the caliber of able to be attracting certain kinds of women. Now, I will say this right off the bat that this is not a dating coach channel. This is not anything like that. But we're going to look at this topic, which is that women thinking that disagreeableness and antagonization is foreplay in modern relationships. We're going to look at the reason for this from a biblical lens, and then we're going to follow through and just talk a little bit more about the topic overall. For those that are just joining, my name is Thaddeus, and this is the Regal Change YouTube channel. I have a Bible verse from Proverbs here that I want to talk about and just relay before we get started. So this is Proverbs 15:16. It says, "A continual dropping in a very rainy day, and a contentious woman are alike. Whosoever hideth her hideth the wind, and the ointment of his right hand which bewrayeth itself." So this is basically saying that a contentious woman is basically like a bad day over and over and over again. And what exactly does contentious mean? In some ways it means confrontational, in some ways it means just overbearing. And you hear a lot nowadays with women saying, "Oh, well, I'm just too much for him," or he just can't handle me. It's like, well, what makes you think that a man that has already built himself up to that level, that put in years of work that you never saw? Because here's the ultimate thing that we men have to just genuinely accept, is that women cannot give a crap about where you've been and how you got to where you are. This is not to say that this is something that all women are going to go through, because in this video we're talking about modern women. We're not talking about traditional women. And I also want to make it clear that traditional women are capable of seeing this kind of stuff in you, but they still are not going to be able to appreciate it to the degree that maybe you wish that they could. And the reason is not because they are soulless monsters, even these traditional women. It's not that at all. It's just that they're not hardwired to think about those kinds of things. The empathy for men, on both men and women in our spectrum of society nowadays, is severely lacking. And this is one of the reasons why I make videos like this, is to hopefully encourage men to not be so down on themselves about their situation, and to realize that in all reality, they probably have more value to provide than look, you guys got to understand, if you're creating something of value in the world, even if you're just building yourself up, you're going to the gym, you're eating right, you're making small changes each day to improve your life, you're making sure that you're taking care of yourself, you're making sure that you are staying well groomed, or you're staying showered, you're not smelling like cheese everywhere you go. Like, you're not like overly loaded with cologne or anything like that, but you wear deodorant, because a lot of the times, like, a lot of men don't even do this kind of stuff. And you know what? Like, there will be times when you're like, I'm out and about at like the store or something, and I walk by a guy and it's just like, well, someone hasn't told him that his shit stinks, man. And it's not the kind of stuff that stinks in a good way. It's like, you just smell like shit, whereas men like myself, we are the shit. We are the shit here. This is where we're going. This is where we're going to be. And that's why it stinks for like goodness, because we're the people that are actually making changes in the world. We're the kinds of people that are actually developing ourselves. And we understand that most of the women out here are not going to say things like, you know, look at the righteousness on that guy. Check out the righteousness on that guy. It's not going to happen. So we have to accept that also women are terrified to be alone. And this is one of the reasons why men underestimate how many potential people these women can be talking to. I can tell you within the last year and a half, 2 years specifically, of literally like dozens of females that I've tried to talk to, or I've had like a minor talking stage with, and it just fell flat. And maybe the reason was because our values and our principles didn't align, or when I just realized that, you know what, we're just not as compatible as I thought. You have to really think with your head and not with the other head, okay? And I don't want to be vulgar here in this topic, but gentlemen, it is what it is. Ladies, it is what it is. Us men, whether you like it or not, ladies, we value fitness. We value cooperation. We don't want a contentious woman that has, like, we don't want to disagree all the time. We don't want to have to come home to a competition, right? We men do not want to come home after we've tried to conquer the day. After we have conquered the day, all to come home and there's nothing being done. The chores aren't completed. Things are messy. Meanwhile, you've been on Instagram for the last 4 hours trying to rack up as many likes as you can because your new whatever just showed up and you're just so happy and you're talking with your girlfriends about it. This is something else that a lot of men don't understand. It's that a lot of the times women don't really want to have confrontational conversations. They just want to be rocking out, okay? And that's fine. You know, leave the conquering of the world to the men. That's fine. Leave the conquering of the world to the men. Because honestly, when women are out here trying to conquer the world, there's nothing wrong with a woman in the workforce or having a career that she wants or wanting to do things. And sometimes women can do things better than men, and sometimes men can do things better than women. And if you look at the stats, most of the hard labor jobs are over 80% of the time occupied and employed by and are employed by men. So men are the owners of these companies as well as the workers of these companies 80+% of the time, including like bricklayers or construction workers, etc. These are the kinds of jobs that women don't want to be in. They want to be... It seems to me like women have this fantasy in their mind of what it's like to be a quote-unquote high-value man. And it looks like he's in the office in the highest room of the highest tower in the biggest city, and he's like overlooking the city on this big swiveling black chair with a cat on his lap smoking a cigar or something. Like, I don't understand, because that's sometimes the vibe that I get from these women. And so you want to make sure, men, that you're staying away from these women that just want luxury and not want to go through the hard work to get there. Now, a woman that's willing to work, that's something that you can deal with. But a lot of the times, golly, like I said, over the past like 2 years, the women that I have talked to, and just things haven't really panned out the way, like some of the reasons is because she was highly nervous. You know, this was a person that stood before her for the first time in her life. Someone that actually knew how to talk to women, number one. And number two, actually knew how how to be in the world and how to act in a world that seemingly doesn't really operate properly. And so I could tell that she was just getting all up in her feelings, and she couldn't handle it. She couldn't handle it. And sometimes women do this when they fall for a guy, but other times they're doing it because they're dealing with something on the inside. And that's something that I'm not going to be able to do. Like I can't do anything about that. So I have to let that go. And I've noticed also that there are also women though that they will openly try to flirt with me in front of their man just to make the man jealous, or because they're actually trying to monkey branch to me. And either way, I don't want any part of that. And I highly recommend you men out there to stay away from those kinds of women, because those are the same women that, as per the topic for today, they think that treating you like crap is going to lead the way. And they think treating you with disloyalty is going to like be a turn on eventually. But in reality, let's even like play this out. Even if you were to follow through, let's say you did get jealous, you did get a little bit upset, but now she's unattracted to you. Well, the fun's over, right? Now she's going to move on to the other guy anyway. Well, let's say that you just set a healthy boundary and you say, look, I don't like it when you flirt with other guys, especially if we're going to be in a relationship. And I sure as hell don't like it when you flirt with men around me. So, and here's the other thing, man. Like, if she's doing that kind of stuff in front of you, what do you think she's doing behind your back? Like, that's not the kind of woman that you want in your life. And then you have women that will ignore you for one of two reasons I found. Usually they're just not interested, like they're genuinely not interested in you if they ignore you. But number two, they'll ignore you because they don't want to give you the validation of you being a handsome like man. That's really what it can be as well. And the reason that I know this is because I've had women that initially I thought, oh, they're just not attracted to me. Okay, I'll just move on. And so I just moved on, and I would be talking to some other girl, and I just happened to be in front of her. I wasn't really planning it to be that way. But I would move on, and then all of a sudden she would start showing her interest, and she would basically, she didn't say this outright, but she insinuated that she didn't want to give me the attention because she already knew, or she at least figured, that I would already be getting attention from other women. And it's like, wow, that is mind blowing. So I didn't know this like a year and a half ago. And when I was told that, I was like, wow, that's really like, you think that because you're going to be showing interest in me, that's going to be a loss on your end? That's crazy. That's crazy. So we also as men have to understand that they're not ever going to be alone. These women out here, most of them are not really single. And even if they are, because here's the thing, they could say that they're single, but even when they're single, they're not really single. Social media has made it so easy for women. And I think this is one of the reasons why men and women have this, I would say specifically modern men and modern women, have this entitlement mentality when it comes to relationships. And there's this big lack of trust altogether in the relationships. And the best thing that you can do as a man in the situation today is to build your resources, build and make sure that you're building your body, building and stabilizing your emotions, getting closer with God, staying on semen retention, because that's going to be a big thing as well for men. And I would highly advise the same thing for women, because ultimately, like, what do you really get if you are able to sleep with a lot of people, what do you really get? You get to say that you did it, okay, but you still end up with what? An empty sack. That's exactly what it is. That's everything, every relationship that you've ever had before this as well that isn't present today is because it's failed in the past. So if we look at this, I would say, dilemma of relationships, again, if you don't have the gravitas and the power as a man to do what needs to be done, you're not even going to be able to attract a higher quality of women. And praise God, I'm attracting better and better women all the time. And the reason for that is because I'm getting better and better all the time. I'm making smarter investments. I'm working smarter. I'm not just working harder, I'm working smarter. And I'm strategically building my life to ensure that abundance is going to be my end outcome and result. Because ultimately, what we all want is better outcomes. But in order to get better outcomes, and this is my genuine hope for our society in doing videos like this, is that we bring the family back. We bring love and kindness and respect back to reality. Because so oftentimes now it's like cheating is the norm. Like, and of course, I'm not saying that this is everybody, but the statistics show that infidelity among men and women are approximately the same percentage, whether you're married or unmarried. That's crazy. So people are more disloyal than ever. And there are, out of all the divorces that are being instigated, 50% of those divorces, or 50% of marriages are ending up in divorce now, right? And out of those 50% of marriages, 70 to 80% of the divorces are started and initiated by the female. So females do not want a family based off of the statistics. What's 50%? What's 70 to 80% of 50% of the population? That's like 40%. So let's see, if we even say that's like out of all of the marriages and all of the women all together, like 35 to 40% of all women are getting married are actually ending in divorce and initiating the divorce. Someone will have to make sure the stats are correct. I don't have my calculator in front of me, otherwise I would do that. I could just do it now, but for the sake of continuing on with the video here, we'll just continue on. But remember, men, if you are working harder and you are working smarter and you are actually building yourself up, you're actually doing the work, not just the inner work, but the outer work as well, your value will go up through time. Women's value does not. And I know this is going to be like hard to hear for some women out there, but the traditional women understand exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm not hating on anybody. I'm not hating on men because the youngsters have no value. It's like, well, yeah, you what are you? You're 18-year-old with a high school diploma. You haven't had really a job yet, or maybe you have. You just started a new job. Like, be honest, women. Would you want a man that doesn't have a job, like a decent job? Of course not. So, yeah, the man that's 18 years old, fresh out of high school, that hasn't had really any work experience, yeah, he's not going to be pretty valuable. Whereas the women that are 18 to 24 years old, they're at the peak of their physical beauty. And all of the women that say, oh, I just get more beautiful with time, it's like, really? Okay, let's be real for a second. I'm not saying that you can't still be beautiful when you're in your 30s or 40s, because I've seen some very beautiful women in their 30s and 40s, and some of them have even approached me, but I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for someone a little bit younger than me, and I'm 27 years old. I want to make sure that the woman I'm with is actually wanting to start a family with me and that has not already started a family with some other person. And it doesn't matter how attractive you are in your 30s, or even if you're just older than me at this point. Like, I don't want an older woman at this point for myself. And a lot of women will say, I don't know what they'll say, but I've heard a lot of different things. But I don't hate women older than me or whatever. It's just that's not my preference. And I do prefer younger women, preferably like 20 to 22 right now, because I can actually I actually connect with them more than the women my age. The women my age that are single, it's just like it goes back to the same topic. They think that because they've had all of these different kinds of relationships for years and they've always been able to get what they want. Like, I had a 25-year-old, 24-year-old. She was 24, 25. This was a few months back, and she told me that I was the first woman that ever said no to her because I told her that I don't do flings. How crazy is that? Like, I was the first man to tell her no. Over 2 decades of experience walking the earth and never being told no. And this was a fairly attractive woman. This is someone that she probably, since she was 18, had almost every single guy in her orbit wanting something from her. And all of a sudden, years later, finally hearing someone say no to her, like, she was shocked. Like, she was just like shell shocked, man. It was crazy. And I didn't want to say no, of course not. But it's like, well, look, like, you are obviously not the kind of person that you're portraying yourself to be, so I'm out. Like, I sniffed this stuff out, I'm out. And it was just mind-blowing to her. But I don't deal with contentious women, like the Bible says. I don't like to deal with that, because what's the second part of the verse? It says, a continual dropping in a very rainy day is like a contentious woman. Whosoever hideth her hideth the wind, and the ointment of his right hand, which bewrayeth itself. So you're going to lose your ability as a man to be if you try to deal with a contentious woman. There's also another verse in here that says something like, I don't remember what part of Proverbs, but I know it is in Proverbs. It says that a foolish woman plucketh down her house with her own hands. And that's what a lot of these women are doing out here, especially the ones that are getting divorced. So be careful out there, gentlemen. And for all the women out there, we can all do better. We can all do better, but men have to do better in certain ways and women have to do better in certain ways, because we are different. So I hope this message was useful and insightful. And until next time, peace be with you.